Well, Emily, we've come to an age where you can get things shipped, overnight or second day, and that's just ordinary. You can get on chat boards, you can be on Facebook for hours at a time, you can communicate with people all over the world, and there's one common necessary ingredient, and that is you have to be sitting in front of some sort of screen, whether it's your smartphone or your computer, your tablet, it doesn't really matter. And scientists are finding that there's some neurological implications to that. And not only for the person doing it, but if you're a parent, there's some implications for your children as well. So that's part of what we're going to really focus on today in this conversation. There's some really interesting stories that have come out. There's a New York Times bestseller that's called A Deadly Wandering. And I first saw that book at an airport bookstore, and I, needed something for the plane, so I bought it and was really sorry when the plane landed because I was so riveted to the story. So just to introduce this topic, I'd like to tell you a little bit about that event. So here's the story. You have a 19-year-old driving to work on a pretty open stretch of highway in Utah, heading toward Logan, Utah, and he is texting his girlfriend back and forth about 5 or 6 different times. And behind him is a gentleman that's, I think, probably in his 40s. He's what we call a farrier, so he's in a big Ford 250 hauling a trailer which has all the tools of his trade, which is anything that horses would need for their care. And he's watching this white Chevrolet drift into the opposite lane on a pretty regular basis. And he's getting a little concerned because it's a 2-lane highway. And if he's in the other lane, he's going to run into whatever's coming from the opposite direction. And as it turns out, there were 2 men, 2 fathers, as it turns out, who were rocket scientists going to work. And they were just having a nice morning, drinking their coffee, driving to work. And here's what happened. This young man, whose name was Reggie Shaw, he didn't apparently have his attention on the road. Apparently, he had his attention on the text that he was sending to his girlfriend. And he just drifted over the middle line just slightly. And it was just enough to clip the door handle of the vehicle with the 2 rocket scientists in it. That spun that vehicle around. Reggie kept driving on, pretty much unaware of what he had just caused in terms of a reaction. Meanwhile, the driver of the truck, to his horror, T-boned that vehicle, instantly killing both of those men, who left behind wives and families, children, and it was just incredibly tragic. So I guess Reggie sort of looked behind him and realized there had been an accident, and he kind of slowed down and stopped. And the man in the truck just, said to him, what were you doing? What were you thinking? And he's like, well, I was just driving to work. And this took several months and several neurologists, as well as the cell phone company, to really put together the fact that Reggie was literally unaware that his attention had been someplace else. And this is what we want to talk about today, because neuroscientists have shown for many, many years that you really can't pay attention to more than one thing at a time. We all really delude ourselves thinking that, of course, we can, answer emails, listen to our children, and plan a menu all at the same time. This is like normal life. But the fact is that we are literally jumping from one thing to the next without realizing it. So the question is, it became pretty clear where Reggie's attention was. It wasn't on the road.